She's My Prey by Celeste King. Episode 3.
So, Eroth, what's on the menu for tonight?
You mean other than you?
Careful, big boy. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew.
Oh, I think you know I can handle whatever you throw my way, Samara.
Yeah? Well, can you handle the steamy library of audio and ebooks on Worlds of Protheka.com?
Of course I can. Especially with the promo code YouTube30. Countless stories at a 30% discount?
Don't tease me, baby.
That's what I live for.
You're listening to episode 3 of Celeste King's She's My Prey. Chapter 13. Sadie. I'm falling. I don't have it in me to regret my choices, my timing of that fatal twist that sent me careening out of the monster's grasp. I suppose falling to my death might be a more peaceful end than what was in store for me with that beast anyway. My eyes squeeze shut as wind whips past me, and I brace myself, waiting for the inevitable pain. The fear of death has a funny way of slowing things down, making everything happen in slow motion. There's a part of me that wishes I'd just hit the ground already. A sudden warmth encloses my outstretched arm, firm, solid fingers yanking up on my wrist. My eyes fly open at the sharp bite of pain as I lurch to a sudden halt, still suspended in the air, only to find dim red light pouring from empty eye sockets. The monster saved me. His wings flap once above him, no doubt in an effort to slow our dizzying descent to the ground. But whatever magic is being wrought on him makes it useless. He must come to the same realization, yanking me up hard against his chest and curling his body around mine, twisting as the ground rushes up to meet us. The sound of his massive body hitting the cobblestone of the street beneath us echoes in my ears, my teeth clattering with the force of our landing. I'm distantly aware of shouting, of motion around us, but my fear-addled mind isn't keeping up as I stare at the monster still clinging to me. He broke my fall. He used his own body to protect me. Why? It's you. His raspy voice plays in my mind. Any other predator would have abandoned his prey at this point, deeming the risks too high for something as simple as a meal. But I must not just be a meal, not to this monster, if he's willing to go through all of this simply to have me. So what am I? Why was he searching for me? What does this nightmarish monstrosity want from me? As if in rebellion to the raucous thoughts whirling in my head, I jerk away from him, breaking his hold on me much easier than I expect. Deep, black-red blood glints on my hands and dress, staining me with the marks of his growing injuries. Whatever spells the dark elves are using to hold him must be nasty ones, to injure a creature like this. His eyes flash as I slip from his grasp for a second time, and his arm reaches out for me again, that dim red gaze fixated on me. I scramble back, away from his outstretched hand, narrowly avoiding his grasp. Blood begins to pool beneath the monster as he groans, trying to push himself up to come after me again. Uninhibited fear courses through me as I think about him soaring off with me again, and I throw myself back, my eyes glued to him like a prey surveys its impending demise. The blood drains from my face as he pushes himself up, his body sagging as he gets to his hands and knees. He makes another feeble motion for me, collapsing with a groan as more blood spills from the slices in his skin. "Sadie!" I hear the madam's voice ring out. My head jerks in the direction of her voice, the madam and several dark elf guards rushing toward us. Relief floods me as I watch them approach. Saved. I'm going to be saved. Subconsciously, my eyes drift back to where the monster lies in a heap, mere feet from me, struggling to get up once again. His gaze rests squarely on me, either unknowing or uncaring of his doom rushing toward him. For some reason, the sight pulls a strange emotion out of me, not quite pity, but something near it. This monster, however terrifying, was the first being other than Annika to try and extend some sort of help toward me. Guilt, The emotion is guilt. As I watch him struggle toward me with another groan, I realise that he's going to die. For whatever unknown reason, whether because of my desires or his own, this monster tried to help me leave the bordello. He was going to get me out, and now he's nothing more than a target, lying bleeding in the street. All because of me. Because he refused to leave without me. Is this the price to pay for trying to leave the bordello, leaving the responsibilities that were thrust on me behind? The monster growls, and my fear rises up again, drowning out the more benevolent emotions I was feeling mere seconds ago toward the creature. No, I shouldn't feel guilty. Nothing that this monster has done was for me. He was going to kill me, to eat me, the second we were free of the city walls. I'll be saving myself and countless others by letting the dark elf guards take care of him. I scramble to my feet, and the monster seems to sense my burgeoning resolve, loosing another growl. I back away, turning toward where Madame Fleur and the guards are approaching. Images of the guards in the bordello flash unbidden through my mind, their broken bodies and horror-stricken faces laid on the plush rugs of the bordello halls. He killed them like it was nothing, like all of those highly trained city guards were little more than livestock. Is he going to do the same to this flock of guards? Will they even stand a chance at stopping him? My eyes flit back over my shoulder toward the creature, struggling to his feet despite the rush of blood coursing out of him. He's injured now, and while this monster seems impervious to many threats, he clearly isn't impervious to magic. I turn back, watching as the madam comes to a stop a safe distance away as more guards rush forward. There must be at least a half-dozen of them, all in gleaming armour, their lips pressed into a firm line as they behold the battle ahead. One dark elf splits off from the rest of the group, planting his feet as the rest linger at his back, grim determination set into the high planes of his features. The lead dark elf extends his hands in front of him, his focus resting on the monster behind me as his fingers begin to curl, his expression stony. The hair on the back of my neck stands on end as I feel power rush past me, and I turn to look just as shimmering, navy strands of magic begin to appear in the air, binding the monster to the street beneath him. I back away another step, the sheer violence and threat rolling off of the monster spurring my fight or flight instincts, but for some reason, I can't look away. The second I've backed away, however, something in the monster seems to snap. With a deafening roar, he rises to his feet, the magical binds going taut beneath him. Massive muscles ripple in his arms and chest as he fights to drag his arms up, to break free of the tendrils holding him here. Dark elves push past me, swords raised as they lunge for him. My heart leaps into my throat as a glint of steel swings toward the beast. But he dives, avoiding the blow. Instead, the sword comes down on a tendril of magic, the shimmering blue dissipating as it comes into contact with the gleaming silver blade. His skull is fleshless, expressionless, and yet I swear I see the creature grin. In a flash, his newly freed arm lashes toward the guard, gripping his skull tightly before he sends him careening headlong into a brick building, the dark elf guard's body landing in a mangled heap with a sickening crunch. It's too much for me. I've seen enough violence, enough gore. There's been enough bloodshed in the past few hours of my life to last me a lifetime. I turn away, my eyes burning as they focus on Madame Fleur, who's tucked a safe distance away at the mouth of a city alleyway. My heart soars as she extends her arms to me, a soft, welcoming smile tilting her painted crimson lips. My feet pound against the ground as I run toward her, my feeble, aching body screaming against the effort. Just a little farther, a little more work, and I'm safe. I'll be safe, and at home, just like I should be. My knees threaten to buckle mere paces away from Madame Fleur, but I push harder, throwing myself into her waiting embrace. The cloying scent of her perfume envelops my senses as her arms close around me, keeping me upright as a sob wrenches from my throat. "Madam," I croak, relief permeating my voice as tears slip freely down my cheeks. "Shh, shh, Sadie," "You're safe now," she croons above me, sliding a comforting hand over my hair. I feel a sharp prick against my arm just then, the sensation making me hiss in equal parts surprise and pain. No sooner have I registered the sharp sting does my vision begin to swim, although not from the tears. Whatever strength was left in my legs begins to give out as they buckle beneath me, a strange heaviness flooding through my veins, my own weight becoming impossible to hold up. I pull away from the madam, my eyes finding hers as my brows pull together in sluggish surprise. Something's changed in her face, that welcoming smile now smug, the warmth in her eyes hardening into something different that makes my stomach twist into feeble knots. My mind slows, my tongue heavy as I try to form the words to make sense of what's happening. A figure appears from the alleyway behind the madame, the colours blurring together, my eyelids becoming too heavy to see the person properly. My mouth goes dry, that heavy darkness sweeping in, the edges of my vision going dark. "Madam, what?"
In a world of elves, demons, and liches.
"What would you choose?
Power?
Or passion?
Would you stab the monster in the back?
Or take him to bed?"
The immersive fantasy audiobook bundle has it all.
Go to worldsofprotheka.com to get access.
Use code YouTube30 to get an additional 30% off.
Protheka's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive.
Chapter 14. Renem. My human stumbles back another step, her piercing blue eyes wide as dark elf guards surge past her. Her distance is a boon. If she stays out of the thick of this coming battle, she will be safe from my bloodlust. "Go!" I encourage, readying to fight her captors. I won't be able to smell her as distinctly, especially not when blood begins to spill from the dark elves. It's all the permission I need to loosen my hold on the mindless, starving beast that rages within me. The dark elf sorcerer thinks his feeble tendrils of magic will be enough to hold me, allow them to slaughter me. But he'd be wrong. The first dark elf that reaches me swings his sword with all his might, clearly expecting his blade to meet its target. Instead, I dive to the right as much as my binds will allow me to, and his blade swings through empty air before making contact with one of the blue, glimmering ropes of magic, the magic dissipating beneath the contact and freeing my left arm. Before he can react, my arm snaps toward him, gripping his feeble, helmeted skull in my hand before I fling him into a nearby building, his body collapsing into a heap as I hear his neck and back break with a satisfying crunch. Another dark elf rushes to take his place, the arms of the sorcerer moving wildly over his shoulder as he tries to refabricate his binding spell. But even with my growing injuries, I move too quickly for the sorcerer's magic to get a firm hold on me. The dark elf before me doesn't even have time to lift his sword before I unhinge my jaws, sinking my teeth into his exposed neck. A garbled scream slips from his lips, pushing more thick, warm blood into my mouth. The moment his blood coats my tongue and his pulse hammers beneath my teeth, I lose myself entirely. A primal groan slips from my lips as I lap at the gushing blood, my teeth tightening like a vice around his neck, until his bones give way beneath them, my free hand coming up to hold him still as I tear a hunk of warm flesh from his throat and swallow it whole, the piece doing little to fill the aching emptiness of my stomach. The scent of fear in the air spikes as the dark elves watch in shock as I consume their brother. But their shock only lasts for so long, until they raise their swords again, flying at me with renewed vigor. I hardly notice their approach as I tear flesh from bone, ripping limbs from the prey beneath me and gobbling them down greedily. It isn't until I feel cold metal slicing at my arm that I unlatch from the corpse beneath me, letting out an earth-shattering roar as I turn on the next closest available food source. With new life, new blood, new magic pulsing through me, the sorcerer's spell becomes altogether useless, my limbs snapping free of the swirling blue binds with ease as I lunge at the next dark elf, ripping his head from his shoulders in one crush of my jaws. I swallow it, helmet and all, though I detest the way the metal sits cold and heavy in my stomach. No No matter, however. It will quickly warm with the rest of the meat I intend to consume. Before the dark elf's limp, headless body has even crumpled to the ground, I'm on the next guard, locking my jaws around the arm, holding his sword and shoving the rest of his body away, relishing in the sounds of his screams and the ripping of sinews as I tear his arm clean from his body. The sounds of my hunt coalesce like music, fanning the flames of my insatiable hunger, the beast twirling between my ribs in delight as I swallow the disembodied arm in one gulp. With every piece of the dark elves surrounding me that I consume, I feel my strength returning, their life force mingling in my veins. No matter how many of them I seem to cut down, more seem to step up. Blood coats me as I rip through the guards, gnashing on the pieces of them that I get my maw around. The cobblestones beneath us are no longer their usual mottled gray, worn down from carriages and countless feet. Instead, the streets are slick and sticky with crimson blood, cracked bones, and torn flesh sprinkled and sticking between the stones. And still, it is not enough. My hunger consumes me, my vision blurring as pure, animalistic starvation drives me forward. The more I consume, however, the more I realize that there is no getting around the swarms of dark elves that mirror my every movement. Where I cut one down, two more appear, more guards joining the initial battalion that chased me and my little human into the streets. My little human. Thoughts of her surface in my blood-swarmed mind, and the soft flesh of the leg in my mouth surrounding that tough, marrow-filled bone suddenly becomes slightly less appealing. I've not seen her since my hunt began, since I unleashed myself on this horde of elves. Have I hurt her? Did I eat her? The sudden panic that rises in me at the thought has me unlocking my jaws from around the leg, a fleshy thump sounding as it hits the ground. Relief pours through me as I see the mottled gray of the flesh, not the pale, creamy hue of hers. Another dark elf leaps at me as I try to rack my mind, skimming through my available memories of the faces of those I've cut down. Every memory, every picture my mind is able to produce, is hazy. I lose control of my higher consciousness when I allow myself to hunt, but the vagueness of my memories now plagues me. Did I kill her? Was she too close to the carnage? The dark elf swings another weapon at me, but I evade it easily, ripping his throat out and tossing his body in one fluid movement. Something burning consumes me, some roiling, black thing in my chest, flooding my senses and spiking my bloodlust. I will kill them all if they hurt her, if they made me hurt her. The continued pain that comes with the onslaught of the dark elves makes the black emotion grow, become more insistent, more consuming. I want to rage against them, rip them to shreds. Burning, heavy, swallowing sensations fill me as I roar at them again, no sign of my little human among them. Too many bodies litter the streets for me to be sure she's not among them, and the dark emotion grows, the futility of it all only fueling the storm inside me. A zip of power flies past me, the fur covering my arms and up my neck standing on end. My attention snaps toward the source of the power, my eyes locking on the damned sorcerer who caused all of this in the first place. Him. He is the reason I did not leave with my little human, and he will die for it. I sink onto my haunches and leap, all of the strength in my thighs catapulting me through the air, and over the heads of the numerous dark elves who had begun trying to surround me. The sorcerer has no time to try and defend himself with magic, merely raising his arms in a primal defense before I'm upon him. I tear into him, my claws flaying him open as I sink my teeth into the red, pulsing lumps of flesh within his bones, ripping and lapping at all that was guarded by his ribs. His screams spur me further, the black emotion encouraging me to hurt him, punish him. He is no mere meal. He is a symbol. The dark elf's magic dances on my tongue, his blood tingling as it slides down my throat with hunks of his organs. As soon as his magic hits my belly, I feel a surge within, and I realize that not only have I thoroughly punished the one responsible for all of this, but I've also found my way out. More dark elves move in around me again, trying to surround me for the second time in a feeble attempt to capture me. An arrow pierces the thick skin of my back, wrenching a pained howl from me, but I refuse to let it deter me. I will not let them take me. I will find my little human in whatever state she may be in, and I will punish the dark elves for this transgression. I rise, flicking my tongue across my jaw and lapping up some of the dripping blood and chunks of flesh stuck between my teeth, ripping the broken arrow from my back as I stare at them all. The dark elves around me quake beneath my gaze, their trembling bodies reminiscent of the vibrations I feel in my bloodstream, the magic itching at my palms to be released. I do as it bids me to, opening my tightly curled fists, magic expelling itself from me so violently that my body trembles. Fire begins to rain down out of the skies, massive orbs of flame and ash careening down into the crowd of elves around me. I half expect such unrestrained power to come raining down on me too, but it doesn't. The flaming spell's solely focused on the threat to me. I stretch my wings, the membranous flesh around them, tender and aching from the time I've had them pressed against my back. The arrow that was shot at me pierced my left wing slightly, but not enough to hinder my flight too drastically. I sink down onto my haunches and launch myself up, extending my wings and catching a gust of wind. Now that I'm coming down from the high of my bloodlust, fatigue and pain begin to creep in, my weakened state preventing me from flying as quickly as I'd like. For a moment all I can do is hover, watching the fire rain down on the dark elves below, listening as their shrieks climb up through the air to meet me. My eyes skim through the crowd, through the surrounding city as I begin to circle, always looking for that chocolate brown head and willowy, fragile frame of my little human. I find nothing, my teeth grinding together with frustration and the continued strain of keeping myself airborne despite my injuries. I'm coming back for you. My promise slips through my teeth unbidden, and yet it makes me feel better somehow. As if my little human can hear my promise, could know that I will not stop in my search for her. I'm coming back for you, I say again, the wind tearing the words from my mouth. As I soar away, that same sordid thought resurfaces, bringing me more pain than the wounds littering my body. Did I kill her? Did I consume her in my blood-hazed state, not even knowing it was her soft flesh between my teeth? The thoughts make my chest tighten painfully, another feeling I don't have a name for roiling in my gut, causing my eyes to dart about frantically. My stomach flips, and I can't help but wonder if that's because the traitor has pieces of her within it.
Chapter 15. Sadie. My eyes are bleary as I blink them open slowly. My surroundings look unfamiliar, my mouth is dry, and my head pounds as I drag myself from the heavy grip of slip. I nearly surrender to it again before a flash of a memory hits me. A giant monster standing over me, ripping through dark elves like they are nothing. I lurch upright despite my body's protests, and with a better grip on my mind I realise that I am not in the bordello. This room is the size of our dining area. No one person would be allowed this kind of space, nor the thick and soft blankets wrapped around my body. The furnishings are too nice, the room too clean, and the floor is made of a thick marble that would never fit in the home I grew up in. Just from the bed alone, I can tell that wherever I am must be a rich elf's manor. No one else would be able to afford such luxury as what I see dripping from every wall and splattering across the floor. And it makes me sick. To know what it is to be beaten and starved, to be sold and forgotten when others have something like this. How many sturdy homes could have been built in its place for those who truly need it? Instead, I have a whole room to myself that I don't want, and I feel suffocated by what looks like a bribe to keep me compliant with whatever is waiting for me. I climb out of the bed, going for the door, but it doesn't open. So, instead, I pace the room. There's an adjoining space where I can wash up, and meals are brought in at regular intervals. That's how I manage to keep up with time as the days pass. Each time I test the door, it doesn't open from the inside. Instead, I find I'm locked in a pretty prison with only a window to stare out of. It's from there that I learn this must be Indoor's manor. I see him pass by outside, but he doesn't even look up to acknowledge me. I should have realised that was a blessing. But I don't. Not until he comes to visit me after a week of isolation. In his presence, I'm reminded that I'd rather be alone than near him, even though he doesn't touch me. He teases and leers and leaves me feeling shaky and vulnerable. For nearly a month, this becomes my day-to-day. Check the door, wash up, eat, tremble before indoor, sleep. It's a cycle, and before long, I start to lose track of how long I've been in this waking nightmare. And what makes it more interesting is how I find my time awake more terrifying than my time asleep. Every time I start to drift off, I find another monster waiting for me. No matter how much time passes, I can't forget him. Yet I don't feel nearly as afraid before the massive creature that stole me from the bordello as I do around indoor. His touch haunts me, but not like the dark elves. I find myself thinking about the beast, wondering about him, but never do I resent him the way I do my soon-to-be master. That's what I'm doing when I hear my door creak open. Staring out at the woods as the light dies, I wonder what happened to that monster, though the word doesn't feel quite right, while another creeps into my room. "When are you going to let me out of here?" I rasp without turning around. Maybe it's foolish, but I'm tired of feeling fearful of indoor. And he hasn't touched me, yet. "I told you," he drawls, his voice soft like he's trying to be consoling. "I want to protect you. I'm only keeping you in here until we find the monster that attacked you." The way he snarls "monster" makes my stomach roil in protest. He says it like he's not more of one, like he's better than whatever that thing was when we both know he's not. Try to relax. I can feel his breath brush on my back, and I flinch. He's closer than normal, and although I feel suffocated by this room, I've never felt more trapped than I do right now. Have I not done everything in my power to make you comfortable? I start to shift forward, trying to put distance between us, so I'll be able to turn around and face him without getting too close, but Indoor's hand latches around my arm. Have I not? His voice is as firm as stone. My instincts kick in then, and I jerk out of his grasp as I slip away from the window seat. He hisses as I rip away from him, the element of surprise the only thing able to beat his grip. I know that he didn't expect me to try, or he would have gripped me harder. "What are you doing?" My breathing has turned frantic, and I regret ever opening my mouth. His lips curl into a malicious snarl. "You're right. It's best to wait." And then he turns on his heel, leaving the room. It takes me an hour to stop shaking, his presence lingering in my room like toxic gas. After that, I start setting traps during the night. Indoor only comes after sunset, so each night I tie a thin strip of fabric I cut from one of my dresses across the door frame and attach pieces of jewellery to the end. If the door were to open, the jewellery would jingle and alert me. 2 days later, I wake feeling off-kilter. I go through my normal routine of showering, taking down the trap and settling on the window seat as I wait for my breakfast. Absent-mindedly, I rub at my head, trying to remember my dream from the night before. It keeps nagging at me, and I wonder if that's why I feel so off. Flashes flutter behind my eyelids, too fast for me to grasp, and for a moment I swear they aren't memories of the night the monster stole me away. They seem different. Maybe the background isn't right, but I can't be sure. The door swings open before I'm able to decipher, and I turn around, surprised that my meal is ready this early. But it's not a Zagfer standing in the doorway. It's Madame Fleur. Shakily, I climb off the ledge of the window. "Madam." I hate how my voice sounds like a whisper. "You look sick," she snaps at me. Immediately, a familiar heat starts to swirl in my core. I might have fallen a bit more docile as I wasted away in here, but that hasn't extinguished the fire that lives within me. "Maybe if you would let me out of here, my skin wouldn't look so neglected." She rolls her eyes. "You spend plenty of time by that window." That's not enough. My eyes dart to the partially open door, a thought formulating. Taking a few steps forward, I give her my best pleading eyes. "Can I just take a walk around the grounds?" A few more steps and I'm almost uncomfortably close to her. Angling my body, though, I am set to run past her. Just to get a little sun? No. Another step, and I think I might make it. I have other plans for you today. This time it's more of a shuffle, so she won't notice how close I am to making it past her. What's that? That madame snatches my shoulders, twisting me in front of her, so we're both staring at my reflection, and I'm caught in her rough grip. You need to get ready. You're getting married today. I see my reaction before I feel it. My jaw drops open, and my eyes widen before the shock really sets in, and I start to sputter. What? But... Madame Fleur smacks the back of my head. What have I taught you about articulation? I grit my teeth against the pain, especially as her nails bite back into my skin. You've known your marriage to Indor was coming, and I have taught you better than this. You should be grateful someone like him would be interested in you. Her eyes gleam on the last word, and I fight a shiver as my skin crawls. I don't wish to break the rules, madam, I say quietly, trying to appear as demure as possible. Master Indor did not pick me from the gleaning. Do I not need to ready for that instead? I have no wish to partake in the gleaning, of course. The idea of being paraded around in skimpy outfits for dark elves to leer at and joke about as if I am an object makes me nauseous. But I do know that the gleaning isn't until next week, if I have calculated the days correctly, and it will buy me more time. Maybe I'll be able to escape with more than 2 minutes of preparation. At this point, I'd rather hurdle my body out of the window than marry Indor. Let him find my broken body before he can break me himself. Madame Fleur seems to sense this as her nails dig into my skin harder. Due to your special circumstances, we have decided to pardon you from the gleaning. No one would be able to outbid him anyway, so Indor has bought you prior to the event. For an extra fee, of course. She gives me a sickening smile. I wish I could have been one of those people who has better control over my facial muscles. But that was a skill I never honed. And the second that the murderous rage fills me, it shows in my eyes. Madame Fleur sees it before I can smother it, and her hold tightens as she leans closer to hiss in my ear. "Listen here, you little bitch," she snarls, her mask cracking as pure hatred is exposed on her face. "I've spent years moulding you into someone worth buying, and you are not ruining that for me. You are going to that altar with a big smile on your face, and you are going to make everyone, especially Master Indor, believe you are thrilled to be there, or I will punish you." Another glint in my eyes makes her laugh. Howl, really. "You may think I can't touch you once you are indoors, and that's true, but there are plenty of girls back at the bordello that will pay your price in your place. I'll make sure they know it's your name to curse as I carve their skin up for every mistake you A knock at the door has her shooting upright, and I turn my head to see a Zagfer staring straight at me. "Excuse me, but it's time." My blood runs cold. Time for what? What else aren't they telling me?
Orcs. Gargoyles. Vampires. Ice monsters. Demons of the dark. These beasts seek war, destruction, and power. And there's only one thing that can tame them.
Love.
This is your chance to get the uncut and unabridged audiobook bundle.
No detail is spared.
Use discount code YouTube30 for an additional 30% off of the already discounted price.
Go to worldsofprotheka.com.
Get access to countless audiobooks and discounted bundles where I talk you through every last scene.
Protheka's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive.
Chapter 16. Renem. I've tracked each sunrise, counting the days as I retreat to my cave every morning. I'm too hard to spot in the daylight, and there are too many elves out for me to try and track my prey. So, each morning I return home to wait for night to fall, when I can track easily and blend into the shadows. The sun touches the horizon as I stand in the mouth of the cave. 31, I whisper. 31 sunsets since I last had her. I'm coming for you. I don't know why I bother saying it out loud. It's not like she can hear me, and I've never been one to talk to myself. But it feels better to hear the words, as if that will help me track her. My patience is wearing thin at this point. I just want the girl back, and they are hiding her from me. I'm on the verge of going into the cities and ripping them apart just to find someone who has seen her. The only reason I haven't is because I fear I'll hurt her in the process, just like I might have before. I shake the thought away as I take off into the night. Running feels good and helps me rid the thoughts that plague me. I still fear what I have done to her, if I can't find her, because there's nothing to find after I lost myself in the fight against the elves that tried to take her away from me. Could I have been so reckless? I know the answer instantly, and that's what makes me feel sick. To better distract myself, I scramble up a nearby tree. The lower branches are perfect for tracking as the wind picks up. They are almost more likely to catch clothing and guide me on my way. Like that strip right there. I dart forward, grabbing it and inhaling. It's not her, but it still smells familiar. I decide to go in that direction, hopping from branch to branch above the path until another waft of the scent hits me. I notice a snapped branch still following the same path, and eagerly I skitter down to the forest floor. Here it's easier to pick up signs. They were careless, but this path is overgrown and rarely used. The hunters I stalk never come down here, and that's why I haven't stumbled upon it before now. Before, I had been trying to use logic on which direction they would have gone, but tonight, with my mind so distracted, my body moved without thought. And now I can find her. I run through the wooded trail, tracking every scent and broken branch until I see lights ahead. Stumbling to a stop at the edge of the tree line, I survey the grounds, and before me is a giant manor. All this time she has been in my territory, in the same section of the woods I frequent, but just out of reach. And now that I've found her, I won't be letting her away from me again. She is mine, and she belongs with me. The only problem is the amount of elves that are prowling the grounds. They've overpowered me once, and that's how I lost her in the first place. I won't let them do it again to me. I stalk around the edges of the land, observing as the dark elves move about. At first I don't register what they are doing, but soon I realize that they all have strange decorations. They carry long strips of white and flowers. Intermittently there are dark elves standing guard, but most of the house is still fluttering with movement, even at this hour when most are starting to disappear indoors. They seem to be preparing for something, and I scramble back up one of the trees where I can crawl out onto one of the limbs and listen. They could have given us some warning, one of the grumbles as they carry more white items to an open patch of land. 2 days to put together everything they need for a wedding? He grunts as he sets something down. I don't get what's so special about this human. The way he says it makes me want to leap down from the tree, but I do something I've never done before. Express restraint. Who knows? All the master talks about is Sadie this, and Sadie that. It's disgusting how interested he is in this human, who's going to be worthless in a few years. They are already retreating, and I barely hear as the other answers. Hopefully the fad will die out soon. I scramble down the tree, wanting to hear more. The sun is sinking lower, the light growing dimmer, and I just need to bide my time. When the light is gone and the dark elves have dispersed, I will have a chance to take Sadie. A thrill runs through me as I think her name, and I practice saying it, whispering over and over it as I grow excited. A beautiful name for a beautiful girl. What's this? I freeze as I hear a dark elf too near me. I'd been so distracted that I didn't realize one had gotten so close to me. Stealthily, I slip behind a tree trunk and peer through the dimming light toward the noise. I know from experience that the dark elves struggle to see in the night like I can. I've eaten a number of wild prey with the ability, and their natural gifts have transferred to me over time. That's how I can see the tall creature studying marks on the ground. No, not marks. Tracks. My tracks. I'd forgotten to cover them, not that it had been a major concern. I hadn't expected anyone to come out here. Awera, the dark elf mutters, and I curse myself silently. How does he know enough of my kind to identify me? The few that have gained such knowledge quickly meet their ends. The elf starts to follow the tracks forward, turning his back to me, and I silently move up the tree. He follows the tracks around until they stop just shy of the tree trunk. From here, I'm able to get a better look at him. Long dark hair that's tied back, skin nearly as dark, and when he looks around, his eyes are as bright as the moon. There's something about his pinched features that are unnerving, and he's smiling in a way that makes me recoil. This dark elf is so close that I struggle not to leap down on top of him. My body shakes with anticipation of the kill, and I lick my lips. My senses start to turn muddled as the hunger claws at my throat. The wind picks up, shifting his scent directly into my face, and the bloodlust nearly wins out. But then I summon an image of Sadie's face, and it helps me hold on to my senses. Slowly, the dark elf moves away, and with the distance, I'm able to calm down. I wait until he's far enough away that he won't see me as I climb back, watching as he makes his way across the grounds but not toward the manor. His gait is odd, but I put it out of mind as I swing off the branch and land soundlessly on the forest floor. As soon as I land, I feel the gaze of something on me. I turn, my gaze sweeping the area around me until they land on the elf I'd thought was long gone. He stares back at me, not an ounce of fear or surprise in his eyes. I'm not even sure how long he's been standing there, his presence having gone undetected. I take a few haunting steps forward, but even from here I can see how frail this elf looks. Like he's sick and weak. There's something off-putting about him too, like maybe he's crazy. I know better than to eat elves like that. They will affect my mind, and I need to be as strong as possible. As I stand, a tree trunk passes in front of my eyes, and by the time I step around it, the dark elf is gone. I blink, stunned. Where did he go? Turning, I can't find him anywhere, and I dash forward a few steps, even looking up into the trees. There is no one around, though a bad feeling creeps into my gut. Before I can consider what has happened, a pulse of magic hits me. It feels familiar, as does the scent accompanying it. It's similar to the one that led me to Sadie, the leader of the hunting party I slaughtered. But this scent is stronger. Could it be from the sick elf? Is this why he looked so frail? Because this is consuming him? I stumble forward, another toxic wave hitting me. It calls to me, pulling at me, even as my body recoils from it. The feeling of it is different from that of a normal dark elf. It's sour almost, and I catch myself on all fours shoving away from the spot where the elf had disappeared. The feeling diminishes as I put distance between me and the spot, but the rancid odor clings to me, like it's penetrated my body. I turn, looking back at the manor, and instinctively I recoil. I'm not sure how I know, but that awful magic is inside that house. But who has it? And why is Sadie wanted by elves with such dark magic?
Chapter 17. Sadie. I can't say I was prepared for what it was time for. I've endured a lot at the madam's hands before. But today was prolonged torture. A beating is hard to take, but hours of being stripped naked in front of strangers, scrubbed ruthlessly by foreign hands, and prepared like a doll took a toll on me I didn't anticipate. By the time they are dressing me, my skin burns from the constant assaults. The lotions and powders sting against the raw pores, and no spot of me was left untouched. Even the silky dress feels unbearably against my abused body, but I bite my tongue as the Zagfur dark elf servants tie the dress tightly around my torso. Madame Fleur has watched everything. Even now she stands before me, beaming proudly, like she did more than bark orders. In fact, she's been so giddy that it seems like it should be her wedding day. I've had to catch myself from offering her my spot at the altar. Like always, she seems to know the words that are just on the tip of my tongue even if I don't say them. "You should be grateful," she snaps at me. "This is such a great honour. You're bringing respect to the Bordello name." I turn to face the massive mirrors as the women finish with my lacings, and the sight before me makes me want to claw my eyes out. My hair is pinned back into an intricate updo that has made my scalp go numb. My eyes are bright and lined in black. The apples of my cheeks are highlighted. My lips are bright red and draw the eye in an unnatural way. And what have they done to my skin? I can see that they were trying to make it look smooth and free of blemishes. But I look fake. I truly am a doll to them. To tighten in this dress until it cuts off my blood flow and paint up until I no longer look human. Madame Fleur comes behind with a predatory grin that makes me want to recoil. Too bad that I can hardly move between the dress and the shoes. "Look at you," she coos, but I know better than to think for a moment that she is being nice. The only good things in this world are what she made, in her opinion. I've made you into the perfect bride. The skin around my eyes crinkle with the effort not to roll them, and she smacks me between the shoulder blades. I fear what I will find when this dress comes off, because she's only been hitting me in places that will be covered. "Don't wrinkle your face like that! You'll ruin all my hard work." Even though she barely lifted a finger. I open my mouth, ready to tell her the makeup is too thick to move when she whacks me again. It's clear she has no patience today, and I am starting to run out of mine as well as my eyes narrow. "You seem to have forgotten your lessons. What was the first thing I taught you?" She grabs the back of my arm, her nails digging into the sensitive skin, and I spit out through gritted teeth. "Speak when spoken to only." "Then why does your mouth keep moving?" Madame Fleur hisses. I'm nearly at my wit's end, the words already burning up my throat, when the door behind me is flung open. The Madame's hand drops as we both turn to face a male dark elf I haven't seen before, though Madame Fleur is instantly grovelling. The man looks remarkably like Indor. Long white hair that has been neatly plaited back and sharp features, even for a dark elf. There's a small dimple on his chin that deepens as he jaw tenses, and his eyes pierce into me. In them, I see a startling resemblance to my betrothed, though they aren't as unusual. They are a flickering amber, dangerous and sucking me in. It's from them that the first inklings of dread start to turn my blood to ice in my veins. "Master Rianorlos," Madame Fleur says as she bows low. I'm still frozen to the spot, though the title does jerk me awake. As my eyes take in his form-fitting formal wear, a tunic and pants made of such fine fabric with golden thread embroidering the edges. This must be Indor's father, and he is stalking toward me, eyeing me in a way that sets me on edge. It's predatory almost, and while some may feel important under his careful scrutiny, I almost feel like a specimen being examined. I shiver, trying to regain my composure as he stops before me. I don't understand what he wants from me, but the way his eyes dance as he takes me in tells me that there must be something. "Fleur," he drawls in a smooth voice that I'm sure has won many women over. "I've come to meet my daughter-in-law." His lips quirk up in a side smile. "I know this evening will be quite busy for you, so this would be the best moment for us to get to know one another." It takes me a brief moment to realise he was speaking to me, and only do once Madame Fleur nudges me. Trying to recover quickly, I bob my head. He chuckles, and I hate that his laugh is melodic and lilting, like soft bells. "I'm Gandalf, and you must be the enchanting Sadie. You've had quite a hold on my son." My heart jumps to my throat, but I manage to squeak out, "Yes, sir." His eyes seem to dance as he hears me speak, and he takes a step closer. "And why is that?" He cocks his head, and I feel like he can see into my soul itself. My body heats up uncomfortably, and I fear that he already seems too interested in me. "What special talents do you possess?" Beside me, Madame Fleur looks starstruck as she takes in the dark elf. I'm surprised she doesn't try to jump in and answer him, and looking to her is no help. I don't know how she is so enthralled when I'm not nearly as at ease as she seems to be. "I'm just ordinary," I manage, pushing a fake smile on my face. I'm sure he can see through it, but he makes no comment as I struggle to be the girl Madame Fleur has groomed me to be. I have a feeling it's the only way I'll make it out of this. I suppose I am just what Master Indoor was looking for. He chuckles again, though there is a sinister snarl underlying this one. I have to fight now to visibly recoil. Oh, my dear, you are what he was looking for because you are special. My whole body freezes at the implication of his words. Internally, alarms sound in my head, and all I can think is, this can't be good. Nausea roils through me as an awful idea hits. What if the two are interested in sharing me? I am to be Indoor's mate and both of their toy. I can barely stomach his son, much less let this dark elf try to get near me. I fight to calm my racing heart, sucking in deep breaths as best I can with the constricted bodice. Indoor has been very possessive of me, I remind myself. He wouldn't let his father near me. But as if to prove me wrong, Gandalf comes closer and places a hand on my arm. My skin feels like ice beneath his hand, as if even the blood is retracting from his touch. His eyes keep running the length of my body as he leans closer, and I hold my breath, my body locking up. Tears prick at the back of my eyes. This can't be happening. To my surprise, he leans in close enough to run his nose along my skin. I think for a moment he's going to do it as he hovers just over my exposed neck, my skin prickling with the sensation of someone so close. And then he sniffs. Even Madame Fleur's eyes widen as he inhales deeply, his breath making my skin break out in chills. He doesn't seem to be self-conscious of what we think as he continues to smell me, up to my hair and down the other side of my neck. My body is starting to tremble with the effort not to move or breathe as he takes me in. I work in tiny gasps through my nose as he moves up in front of my face. He still hasn't touched me, other than his hand that hasn't left my arm, and he hovers just in front of me. One wrong move and our noses would brush against each other. His eyes flick open, the amber colour startling so close up, and he breathes, "Oh, you'll be perfect." There's a hunger in his expression that makes me uncomfortable, and I'm not sure if I should ask him what he means. I'm not even sure I want to know. But the door to my room pushes open as another Zagfir servant comes in, calling out, "Excuse me, Master Rhiannolos, it's time for Miss Sadie to go out." I don't even wait for him to let me go. The second his head turns in her direction, I take off, my arm stinging from being ripped from his grasp. His soft chuckle echoes behind me, haunting me as I launch myself from the room. The servant eyes me as I rub my arms to heat them up. Gandalf sucked all the heat from the room and chilled me to my bones. And his words. What could I be perfect for? And why do I get the feeling that he did not mean the perfect bride? Chapter 18. Sadie. It's not difficult. The Zagfir servant clearly hasn't noticed that I'm not listening. All my focus is going into keep a grip on this heavy bouquet she placed in my palms. When the music starts, you walk around the corner. I don't feel much safer out here than I did in Gandalf's grasp. The air is suffocating, even after I begged to go outside for weeks. My senses are turning muffled, and I can't even hear the murmur of the crowd or the girl next to me. And what's worse is that it is absolutely gorgeous out here. The manor has been decorated to look absolutely magical. The wide yard is lit with flaming, floating baubles that cast a soft light in the setting sun. White chairs are set up with silk ribbons tied around the backs, and a matching white silk aisle splits the crowd. Navy blue flowers are tied to the altar and chairs, and petals have been sprinkled across the aisle. Even the flowers in my hands are navy blue with gold ribbon twining them. It should be beautiful, and yet I feel suffocated by the elegance of it all. The woods around the manor only add to the magical quality, as the nightlife wakes up and provides us with soothing sounds, and the air is filled with the scent of rersed herb, a soft floral scent that calms me. But with the amount of eyes on me, it is hard to feel at ease. Instead, I feel like turning and fleeing into the forest. It feels like I'd have better chances out there than I do here, staring at the gathered crowd of dark elves. My stomach churns. There's not a single human out there, not a friendly face for me to look to. Instead, I'm faced with the two I dread most, Indor and Madame Fleur. The Madame seems to have freshened up a little in the time it took them to lead me outside, place flowers in my hands, and ready me for my grand entrance. I don't know why we're even bothering with this kind of charade when we all know I am the least important one in this union. But Madame Fleur stands at the end of the aisle in a long evening gown that hugs her down to the waist and flares out. Her hair is curled and pinned to the side, and her makeup looks sharper. Maybe it's so I can see every word she mouths at me from a distance. Like right now. She's saying smile. I wish I could tell her that I'm not being purposefully defiant. My brain has legitimately forgotten the commands for the rest of my body, and that's why I have yet to move since the music started to play. "Miss Sadie," the Zagfer says to me, "you must go." There's an urgency in her voice that I feel vibrate through my body. I just need a moment. Her face tightens as her eyes dart toward the guests. I'm supposed to be concealed around the corner from the festivities, but I know some, like Madame Fleur, can see me. My appearance is more a surprise for Indor, and I dread seeing the expression on his face. I can still feel his father's hand on my arm and his breath against my chest. My heart starts to pound in response. I consider taking my chances with whatever will be prowling the forest tonight, instead of the monster on the other side of the aisle. "You must go now," the Zagfer hisses, giving me a light shove, and I stumble forward. The anger on the Madame's face is instant. No one is looking at her but me as I catch myself. Her eyes flash, and I force a bright smile on my face as I straighten, pushing my shoulders back as I start my march. I move as slowly as possible, just to get to the end of the aisle. Many of the guests' faces are turning strained by time I reach where they are, and as my fear starts to pound through my body, I slow down even more. I'd hardly say I'm marching at this point. It's more of a slow shuffle up the grass. Hard as I try not to, my eyes land on Indor. He's dressed in a fine navy tunic with gold thread and matching breeches. His gold shoes are perfectly cobbled, and I know they must be one of a kind. Even his white hair, with the front pieces braided to frame his face and the rest left cascading down his back, have pieces of navy worked into the plaits. To many he must be stunning, but to me, all I can see is his wickedness. There's something about the way his eyes spark like fire that sets me on edge. It's like I can see his intentions dancing there, all the things he wants to do to me that make my limbs lock up in fear. Every warning inside of my body is screaming, just like when I met Gandalf. There is something off about these two that repel me, and the idea of getting married just seems wrong. I physically want to recoil from this union as if I've been asked to swallow poison for the rest of my life. I just know I won't survive it for long. I'm careful to keep the panic off my face, though. I know better than to let my face fall as I continue to stall this wedding. It needs to look as if I am taking my mate in, soaking in all that Indor is, or someone will force me to speed up. And right now, the only way my legs are moving faster is if they are taking me away from this manor. As I stare at Indor, a flash lights up behind my eyes, a brief memory of the monster that wanted to take me away. How even that creature had never made me feel so disgustingly afraid and just utterly wrong. Is there something wrong with me to think that the monster would be better than the dark elf duke? Probably not. This is Protheka after all. A sharp tap draws my eye away from where Indor is silently promising me what I deem to be a night of torture. I slide my gaze over toward the source of the noise to see Madame Fleur tapping her cane on the bottom of the altar. To others, it might seem like a gesture of impatience. The cane may be nothing more than an accessory to them, something that would slip the mind. But to me, it's a promise. She doesn't even have to say it for me to hear it loud and clear. Keep moving this slow and the others will pay. She'll lord the other girls over my head as long as she can manage, and unfortunately for me, it works. I can't stomach the thought of the others getting hurt because of me. I stiffen and pick up the pace, and just as I reach the altar, Indor sighs softly. Sadie, you look ravishing. I'm not fully before him yet. I haven't quite passed the threshold, and despite the incessant tapping of the cane as a reminder, my feet start to stumble. I know that if I make that step up there, that will be it for me. There is truly no coming out of this, and as that reality hits me, so does the sting of tears. I want to sob and cry. The bravery I fight to project each day threatens to leave my body, and I fear I just may crumble at this altar. Indor's face starts to falter like he is just now realising how hesitant I am. He shifts at the same time as Madame Fleur, and I think they are both considering making a grab for me, something I am certain I will be punished for later, but the guests have waited long enough. Luckily, I will never have to find out who would have made it to me first, or what my consequences would have been, because a scream rips through the night air, bringing the ceremony to a halt. Run! No! Stop! My magic doesn't work! Still facing the altar, I see sparks of various colours fly through the air. Every member of the crowd should have high-functioning magic, and yet none of them are able to take down the intruder. Even Indor is standing shell-shocked as he stares behind me. His expression is now slack-jawed, and satisfaction fills me at the sight. It's nice not to see that smug look in his eyes. But as the sickening wet sounds of ripping limbs penetrate those screams and the snaps of bones echo through the air, I know what it is that must have brought out this kind of reaction in him. I turn slowly with wide eyes, just in time to see the dark elf's head ripped clean from its shoulders. Blood splatters all over the white silk, and I almost want to laugh. I've been envisioning slaughtering them all for weeks, seeing their blood spraying across the pristine floors, and now, it seems, my vision has come to life. And with it, so have my nightmares. Because, standing in the midst of the now screaming and scurrying crowd, is a massive monster I've seen each time I've closed my eyes, and as I grin, I wonder if there truly is something wrong with me. The sight of the creature stirs both hope and trepidation in me. I desperately want to get out of here, but as carnage reigns around him, guests and decorations alike being shredded until neither are recognisable, I wonder if I have misplaced my dreams. Because this monster seems unhinged. He's not tracking a scent, and in fact, he doesn't even seem to notice me. This is almost nothing like at the bordello. And now I'm starting to wonder, is this the same monster as before? Or has another come to kill me this time?